Coming up on this week's episode,
that all comes through developing the right cultures, because culture can be negative, culture can be positive, and whatever you do, your church, your family, your life has a culture, whether you are determined to have it or not.
hello and welcome to the Transformation Podcast with Metamorphic. My name is Jordan and I'll be your host as we interview team members and special guests to be inspired and empowered to bring transformation wherever we are. You can head to our website metamorphic.global for more resources and opportunities to bring transformation around the world. Welcome to the Metamorphic Zone, where we laugh at the impossible and then do it. Hello and welcome to the Transformation Podcast with Metamorphic. Today I'm back with Patrick from Uganda, and we're going to be speaking today about culture, which is a very important topic and is something that we teach our church planters and we see real transformation through it. So Patrick, I want to start with the first question, which is, how would you define culture?
Lovely. In accordance to me, culture is living in accordance to set values when it comes to an individual. And then when it comes to the group, it's living in accordance to the shared values and convictions that characterize an institution or an individual.
And culture is something that we have all been impacted by at some point in our life. Can you share with me a story where culture has impacted you?
Yeah, just recently I was ministering somewhere up country, and then I found it was a different culture altogether from my culture. And I realized the way people were behaving and everything they were doing, you could see that that is their culture even without them speaking. And then I came to realize that the importance of culture in order to bring about something, somebody needs a culture. And then it prompted me to speak to them about the right kind of culture, forming a foundation for everything that somebody does. So I realized that culture is a vehicle to somebody's success or somebody's failure. Culture is everything as far as somebody's success or life is concerned. It's a way of life. So from there onwards, I got a conviction, I got the understanding that for everything to be done in this world, somebody needs a right culture that derives to a certain something. So if you want to do something or receive something, there is a culture, there is a discipline that is required. Minus that, someone can strive in vain. There's a need to understand a certain culture that derives to the achievement. Even Jesus Christ said that, seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and the rest shall be added unto, which means that you need to seek the culture, the life, the discipline, and then what is within you will attract what you want. Minus the culture, then we might not get what we want.
What's the strangest culture that you've ever been in, Patrick?
The strangest culture? No, the good thing is because of the media and everything. Actually, even when I came to Australia, it was a different kind of culture. But because of exposure through what we've been seeing, so yes, it was different, but not so different. So I can adapt very fast, adjust very fast because of my upbringing. I was raised as a dependent child. So in order to survive, you need to adapt to a certain culture. So yes, it can be strange, but my level of adaptability because of my upbringing, I haven't had to come by a very strange culture. Except maybe if I went to the Islamic world, that is totally different. One of the things I feared about the culture, especially in the West, was the diet. So when I was in Africa, I was told that in case you want, because it was my first time to go on a plane and also to step outside there, it was my first time. So I was told, in case of anything, if you want to survive anything, ask for chicken and rice. Because you might order for something you may not understand. But I thank God everything I liked. It wasn't so strange to me. Yes. Yes, I ordered for chicken and rice until I realized I need to pick up. And one of the things I really picked up and I liked was ginger beer.
And when it comes to our church planters, then what do we train them about culture? What are we teaching them? What are we trying to help them understand?
Yes, what would make them understand first is culture is the most important ingredient in growing a dynamic growing church. Minus culture, life will be a struggle. And then we take them through different cultures, and then we guide them we don't choose for them their cultures, but we guide them. And when they select the right kind of culture, which is something they would like to see lived in their people, and which is attractive to the outside non-churched people, a number of them testify about church growth by accident, and even those that are planting many churches. We have a church planter who has planted 15 churches as a result of applying culture, changing culture, and has made his life more and his work and calling more easy. And also the people, because they have the culture of love and leadership and commitment, they have transformed their communities through love because they have chosen to make love their life. And so people have been touched by love. They have taken youth to school, trained them, given them a number of things, and some have even grown up to be leaders in their churches.
When we're looking for church planters to establish a culture in their church, what would you say is the primary thought that they should have? What are they thinking about first?
Yes, what is most important is culture is not external, it's not outside. Culture is a mindset, because what you think determines what you believe. What you believe determines what you speak, and that will determine the outcome of your life. That will change your life. So it is very, very important, because culture takes time to develop. You don't just wake up and just pick on a culture. You have to be deliberate about culture, and it has to come from inside, which means you have to give it time. It is labor, there is effort. Then after, just like you wake up and you don't remember, you dress up and you don't remember what leg was first in your shoe, or how you dressed up, it has already become a part of you. So it is a struggle at the beginning as you grow up, but as you grow up, you're not mindful of how you dress up, but you find yourself dressed up. So culture is the same. Once you want a certain goal, you want a certain target, you want certain privileges, develop the culture that will help you pick up with that, and don't just for the sake of picking it up, but embed it in your life. Let it be a part of you, from the thinking to this time when you can't believe it. And then after believing, eventually it will come out. What fills the heart is what comes out in your speech, and then you find yourself doing whatever you're supposed to do, and hence making a clear channel to whatever you want in life.
Our church planters are deciding cultures. When they're thinking about culture, when they decide a specific culture for their church, what do they end up with? As in, how do they communicate their culture? And then how does that lead to transformation?
They end up with 3 to 5 points, a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5. For example, we have cultures like love, faith, generosity, and things like that. Something that you'd like to see in your people, and diligence. And so, but at least not a maximum of 5, not beyond that. And if it's less, 3 cultures. And then that gives them time to go deeper in those cultures, to develop those cultures more broadly, and they should never stop until they are manifested, they are lived in every individual member of their church. And you know what? It is for a lifetime, because the church always gets new members. And even the old members, just continue learning. So all the time they ought to be teaching cultures. So culture is a lifetime story.
Can you share a specific story with me of a church planter who has experienced transformation in either their church or in their community through having a strong culture?
Yeah, there's a pastor called Pastor Solomon Wele in a church in the eastern part of the country, and because he's finishing actually in this November, so they are beginning on the 4th and they are finishing on the 7th of November. And this man, ever since he began in his 2-year course of study, and even he came and learned cultures, this man has planted 14 churches. And you know what he says? It's as a result of changing the culture of the church. And some of the leaders in his church have been youth that have been got from streets through loving them, teaching them, living with them, enduring and taking them through the cultures. They have grown so fast to the degree of owning up responsibilities. So if it's in 2 years' time he has 14 churches, how much more if he continues the discipline of culture?
Do you know what his main culture points are, or one of the things that has really changed for him?
Yes, I know some of his main cultures. So since it's practice, no worries, I've written them down. And one of his cultures, actually, as far as I remember, is leadership. Because to him, he says that everyone is a leader at whatever level. And so it puts in his people the mindset, just like I said, it's a mindset that somebody is a leader. Then love is one of his cultures as well, because through love and the people getting into love and love getting in deep in their souls, they have managed to be generous to their communities, loving their communities and touching their communities, and hence they are just increasing even the numbers because of the church living in love, not just preaching love, but being love. So he claims those cultures have been of a great influence. Of course, he has encouragement and generosity. He has a culture of 5: love, encouragement, partnership, leadership, and generosity. And no wonder his church is growing so fast and is of a great impact.
So what's one thing for our listeners today that they can take away and put into practice about culture, maybe in their family or church or business? What's one thing that they can do today to step more further into setting a culture in their life?
Yeah, what's one thing is to be deliberate, because culture takes time. First, to be deliberate about a culture that you want, because you have the picture of what you want to be. What kind of cultures will you choose, and then be deliberate, because it's not easy to see the formation of those cultures in your people. So unless you are deliberate, you will fail. So one thing I advise our listeners is, for everything to happen, anything substantial to happen, there has to be a culture that brings forth that. And so you have to be deliberate about building a culture that will help you achieve what you want, and not just staying in desire, but deliberate. And then mindset. What you think determines what you believe, which will eventually influence what you speak, and then the outcome of your life. So it is steps, not jumping steps, but then you have to be deliberate and form the right picture that you want. But that all comes through developing the right cultures, because culture can be negative, culture can be positive. Whatever you do, your church, your family, your life has a culture, whether you are determined to have it or not. So it can be so the strength of your culture and the positivity of your culture will help you overcome. And the weakness, being weak in culture, non-deliberate, will enable you have poor cultures. And you know the end result is you're going to be subdued, subjected, and always being under slavery or not achieving or just in desire. Just like the Bible saying, your expectation being cut off, simply because you have failed to be deliberate about building the right kind of culture that will give you the right kind of success. So be deliberate about culture, choose to have the right culture, be positive about culture, and the rest will be history. All the rest will just follow or fall into place. So I advise our listeners to be positive about culture. God is for culture, families for culture, all nations have culture, and every respectable institution has a culture. So it's high time we build culture from an individual level, institutional level, and at whatever level, we have to be deliberate about what kind of behavior, what kind of life we require.
It's brilliant. Patrick, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Transformation Podcast with Metamorphic. Make sure to head to our website, metamorphic.global, where you'll find resources to empower you, as well as opportunities through partnership to bring transformation to the world. Follow us on social media. All the links will be down below in the show notes. Thank you for listening.